Welcome back to the Summer Spectacular. It is the middle of day 2, and we are here doing our daily top 10 list. And with me, back, having skipped yesterday, is Z Garcia.
That's right, baby. I'm here. Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
And you might recognize her from Dice Tower Tonight and her own podcast, Crystal Pisano. Although,
hello, I know you all are used to seeing me in the evenings, but look, I can get up in the morning too.
I don't think they would recognize you from the podcast, so that was incorrect of me. And then Paula Deming. Things get dicey.
Hi, I'm Paula. Sorry, I'm laughing at the idea that they will recognize her voice, just maybe not her face from the podcast. But hi, everyone.
That's all right. Nobody listens to my podcast.
Here's what
Tom says. So it's fun.
This is what I've learned in the past 2 weeks. So we have had, Paula's the first person since we started having guests, co-hosts to come on twice. And last time she was on, we were very kid glove, very nice to her.
No, I lose.
Because she's a very nice person. But then I listened to Death by Monsters. First with my kids in the car, which was a mistake.
You should not have done that.
And then, well, I didn't know. It had Paula Deming. I was thinking Disney.
It says it has a language warning on iTunes.
I don't look at the language warnings. I just assume.
So
anyhow.
sorry.
Yeah,
Tom.
it's fine. It's
They're
fine.
scarred.
Then I
Those
listened to
kids
it
are
without
now
my kids,
scarred.
and I was still like, huh. Anyway, I learned a lot about monsters. All right.
And
All right,
Paula Deming and her vocabulary, her sailor's mouth.
I don't normally speak like that. It's only on that podcast. So I blame Matthew, Jude, and Nick Murphy. My mother listens to it, and it's apparently fine with her, which is amazing to me. So
There you go.
Well,
But basically,
anyhow,
we're
folks,
not gonna,
we're here doing
no kid gloves today.
Huh?
Is the point?
That's
What's
right.
the point of what you were saying?
We are really nice, actually, to all our guests and never disagree with any of them. And we expect the same respect that we give.
Yeah,
noted.
it's definitely going to happen.
All right.
All right, so I've been meaning to do this list all year. We always send out to when we have a guest, I send them a pile of top 10 lists that are possible. And I'm like, all right, don't forget, we got to go back a decade and take a look at 2010, but no one said yes till now. So
And
I'm
we
excited
may-
about that.
We may have regretted that decision after we made
Almost immediately.
Here's what I think, and maybe Z disagrees with me, I'm not sure, but I think 2010 was a good but not great year. And I also think that 2020 is already better than 2010 now.
I don't know about the second part of your statement, but I'll agree with the first. I thought it was a good but not necessarily phenomenal year. It was a good year for first attempts at a bunch of stuff that we'll come back to in a few years and polish up again, which I guess says something, that's good.
That's a really good. I didn't even think about that. You are right.
Right. So,
Obviously.
and in
Like,
fact,
yeah, of course I am.
of course I'm right. I like to research my top 10 lists as I am formulating them. I realize that a concept might be foreign to you, peasant, but no, that's stupid. Anyway, a lot of these, if they are on my list, by the way, and they do have a second edition or what have you, it's on the list based on that one, this first one, in its form, the way it came out originally. Okay, I even picked pictures of the original thing whenever possible. Well, like I said, see my previous statement about peasantry.
No, I think what your previous statement was like, unlike Tom, I can't remember 2010, so I had to go read about it to remember.
Whoa, subtle burn on my mental state. Great. Nice job, Tom. Rude.
All right, before we get into this.
And that's what I would have said if I was dealing with. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a super old joke there, Z. All right. We have a contest. We're running. You can win a copy of the Exchange or the Alpha, both of them from Bicycle Games. And you can win these by emailing us at contest@dicetower.com and putting the word 2010 as the subject line. 2010, tell us what your favorite game is there, but also give us your name and your address, and we'll announce winners tomorrow. This is for North America only, so keep that in mind. And we want to thank Bicycle for sending us those games, or sending you those games if you win.
Cool.
Before we start here, did anyone else have any thoughts on 2010 as a whole?
I mean, kind of what you all already said. There's at least one game that a later version or a new kind of reimagining of that game is one of my favorites of all time, but I did not put the original on my list because I've technically never played the original, but it definitely would have shown up on my list, I believe, if I had played it.
I did the opposite. There's one game on my list that's fairly high on my list that is on there because of how much I enjoy a later version of the game, but I personally believe it shares enough DNA with the original that I counted it all as one. And my list also was made with a lot of like nostalgia, kind of weighting my feelings towards some of the games, because a lot of these games from 2010 are games I was first playing when I was first getting together with the gaming group and first really getting into the hobby. So there are some that now maybe they wouldn't make my list maybe necessarily in another context, but I'm like, oh, we played this game a lot at game night, and it's a reason why I play these other games now. So it's kind of high on my list, even though I haven't played it in forever. So that was kind of the mindset I took with a lot of my games.
There's a lot of vague stuff being said here.
It's basically, that was like, hey, listen, I've got some bad picks, but that's because I was inexperienced as a gamer.
That's
so
because I have an emotional attachment to them.
I'm with you, Paula, 100%, and they can roast us all they want. I don't care.
Oh, what's happening? I got marshmallows.
Oh, I
thought we
love
said we're going to be
marshmallows.
nice today. All right, let's get started. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Number 10.
All right, my number 10 pick is a game I no longer own, though when I did, I had a bunch of content for it, and that is Ratus. Ratus was a neat game. It's a neat game. It's a smaller Euro-style game with an interesting theme and probably too much luck at the end of the day. But in it, you are populating different places in Europe and trying to have your cubes, your population, survive various token flips that signify the plague attacking people. It's got a really cool central mechanism that I haven't really seen used in anything else. And that is that you can choose to take a character that gives you a special ability. You will keep that character for the rest of the game, possibly, unless someone else does the same thing and takes it from you. But the more characters you have, i.e. the more special powers you have, the more likely that the plague targets that character in front of you. So it's a really nice, interesting seesaw kind of thing. You can try to go lean and sneak in under a lot of those attacks, those targeted, fronts, but maybe you can just make up the difference by being able to put out more cubes and, move tokens on the board before they trigger and all these things. So where do you fall, in that? There's also the idea of like, oh, I get a card that's good now, like a special ability, but later on, I'm no longer using it, and no one's taking it from me. So I'm like stuck with it for a while. So it's interesting. Ratus is my number 10 pick.
Do you think this game is not, pandemic, it works well, right, even now, because you're fighting against the pandemic. I don't know if Ratus is like a game I want to play today.
I got rid of it because of that very thing. I would say, Tom. I played it again and I thought, it's pretty lucky. Like it feels kind of nasty and swingy, and I can't affect it too much.
You
the
don't
theme?
Want to get, you don't
no, I don't
it
think the theme is. No, it's the plague. I mean, it's the plague. No, I don't think it. Yeah,
matters. You go out of your way to kill people with the plague in this. You're glossing over that, but you definitely are like.
It feels, unconnected. I don't know.
The box has a very cute rat on the cover. Right. So I'm kind of into that.
I don't think you can
never
say
heard
cute
of this
rat.
game.
Yes, you can.
You can.
Have you seen Splinter? Come on, cat.
Have you seen Ratatouille?
What? I don't like Ratatouille. Let's move on.
Okay. My number 10 is Hanabi. I think maybe if I had played this game more, I haven't played it a ton, and maybe if I played it more, it would be higher on my list. I know it's a game that a lot of people really love, but it's my number 10. So if you're not familiar with it, it's a co-op game where you're working together to kind of set up a beautiful fireworks display, and you're doing that by playing cards that are of the same color down on the table in numerical order, but you can't see what your own cards are. So you're holding your hand of cards out facing everyone else, and you have to give like hints to everyone else about what's in their hand, so they're choosing the right card to play down at the table. And I just think it's a fun game that has a lot of like silly kind of player interaction where you're trying to figure out like, wait, oh, you're telling me I got a red 3, and they're like, that is absolutely not what I was trying to tell you. And you're like, no, I know what this is. It's that red 3, and then you're like, oh, we don't understand each other at all. Yeah, so that's my number 10.
This is one that I always forget in this regard because I know it technically came out in 2010, but didn't hit English till 2013. Z,
Well,
did you ever play like the original version?
I'm already ruined on a technicality.
Yes.
No. I'm not canceling your erroneous pick.
Cross it off. Cancel me from board games.
I still have it. It's actually there at work for some reason. The original published version of this was really cheap. A little plastic box. It's a deck of cards in a plastic box that was from a French publisher, and it was Hanabi. It was two card games in one. Hanabi plus Ikanaba, something like that. So it was these two, and then clearly Hanabi was like really popular. Ikanaba was not at all, so they dropped it when they republished it. But yeah, I've got that still. Yeah, it's neat. It's pretty.
I still remember 2013 when in Germany we found that there was that Hanabi that was selling for like 10 euros, and then Hanabi and Phase 10, a bundle, was selling for like 7. So
that's right.
If you got Phase 10, you got a discount.
Well, yeah, we started a store in Germany where if you bought the bundle, it was actually less. Yeah, it's great.
But then you're stuck with Phase 10.
Well, I know. That's why they were giving you the discount. So, like, please take this off our hands.
We need to clear the space in our warehouse, please. We'll pay you to take our game. Yeah.
All right, Crystal, you're up. What do you got?
All right, so my number 10 is one that I really haven't played in quite some time, but kind of like Paula said earlier, it is a game that I played a lot early in my time as a hobby gamer, and that is Zombie Dice. So Zombie Dice is a really simple push your luck game where it is just a cup full of dice that have different symbols on them, and you are rolling them continually trying to kill zombies. And that's kind of it. There's just 3 different symbols, I believe, on the dice themselves. There were some expansions that came out and other like promo dice that came out with different symbols. But for the most part, it's just a cup and dice, nothing else. And it's really simplistic and very luck heavy. But for me, especially early in my gaming career, it wasn't just about games that were easy for other people to learn. It was about games that were easy for me to teach, because when I was new to the hobby, I was excited about it and wanted to kind of spread the joy to others. But because I was still new to the hobby, I would kind of get stressed out about teaching more complex games to people. And I would always worry that I was going to screw something up or mess up the rules. Admittedly, I still screw up the rules to games I'm teaching today. But back then, I had a lot more apprehension about doing so. So a game like Zombie Dice, I could bring to a group of gamers or a group of non-gamers at like a casual get-together. And honestly, everybody I introduced it to back in those days really seemed to enjoy it. It was a casual activity. We would just pass the cup from person to person, and they would take their turn, and you would try and get the most points. I really enjoyed it. It is... For what it is, it works well, and I think it's great for casual gamers and families alike. I still own it, although admittedly, like I said, haven't played it in a long time.
I don't think it's a bad push your luck game. It's been remade 4 times. They did Batman, the animated series.
I used to own the the trophy buck version
The trophy
of this.
buck.
Oh, gosh.
The hunting
Yeah,
one.
which I got
There's-
like at Walmart years and years ago, and that was
course.
good. It was a nice bag. Like the bag was like a fabric bag with a zipper across the top. You could pass that as a bag you could just reach into. It was cool.
They also did Mars Attacks and Dino Hunt. But oddly enough, even
Right.
though I like all four of those themes better than zombies, the zombie one is the one I ended up playing the most. I don't know why.
Sure.
Yep, so that is why Zombie Dice is my number 10.
I haven't played this, but I feel it looks like something that would be really fun to like take with you on a trip or to a convention or something that you could very easily like in. You're like, oh, we've got a little bit of time. Let me pull this thing quick out of my bag and play it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
What is this
basically, that's
trip
it.
of which you speak?
yeah, I know. As I was saying it, I was like, this is wishful thinking. It's fine.
All right, my number 10 is very, very light, just like the zombie dice, and that's Dominant Species. Or maybe not light at all, actually. Dominant Species, one of the heaviest worker placement games that exists, from Chad Jensen, who just recently passed away, sadly. Known for making war games, decided to make a worker placement game about evolution in which you took one of several species and tried to conquer Earth, or conquer this area that you're building. Worker placement, take that. It's big, it's long, it's brash, it's 3 hours. I've definitely softened on it. I mean, I loved it when it came out. It was fantastic. But a 3-hour in-your-face style game doesn't get played as much these days for me. And also I found that most of the people who like Dominant Species that I meet at conventions like it so much that, you know, they're at a level that I cannot attain. Like, oh, you want to play Dominant Species? Which species you want to pick? I'm like, I don't really care. Oh. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I've already made a mistake and we haven't started playing yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a lot of fun. And it's a really well-made game, Dominant Species.
This is what I have.
Number 9.
All right. You were saying something, Crystal. What were you saying about a dominant species?
Oh, I've never played Dominant Species before, and I've heard people talk a lot about it over the years, and it's one of those games that, you know, kind of in the back of your head, you're like, oh yeah, I should try that, but it's not really like you're not compelled.
Nah.
I'll say I've never in the back of my head thought.
Nah, I'm with Paul on
I
this
know
one.
Dominant Species. Huh,
No.
looks like more than I want to do.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about some good games now. My number 9 pick is, I expect to be higher up on Tom's list, maybe on one of your 2 lists as well, maybe. And this is Friends, I think that's how you say it. This is a nice kind of middle of the road Euro style game in which you are going to be building up columns. It's a real like throwaway theme, completely, you know, amorphous sort of like building cities in some building towers in some place because someone told you to build them real tall, you know, whatever. But the card play in this is really nice, or at least the card sort of like, you know, you're acquiring cards that have abilities, and those cards are coupled with building blocks. So you can go deeper into the line by dropping off some of the blocks you've got, get a better card, get the blocks with that, and then you're also constructing buildings. There's an interesting push your luck aspect to it, in which you have to build the towers over several turns because it costs. There's a cost to stacking them, and it's these really nice wooden pieces that actually stack. But you have to start, if you're going to build something really tall, you got to start several turns earlier. And if you spend a turn without adding to one, it starts to decay. It's gonna get broken down. So you need to plan ahead enough that you can always add something until it's the right height, and then you deploy it onto the board and score a bunch of points. It's neat. It's kind of got some teeth to it too, which I enjoy that in this game. There's a little hint of meanness in it, but yeah, Friends is a good game. It's definitely still in print, and it's been reprinted a couple of times. So that's my number 9.
I like that the box cover for this one has that classic, like, 2 people, like, turning back to look and be like, come into the game with us. Look, you know, very Carcassonne.
Once you get in there, the sharp teeth come out. Don't follow them.
Scary. It's just a tower of teeth.
Tower of Teeth was the original game.
Mhm.
They changed it to be more pretentious.
Tower
No.
of Teeth.
Yes.
Yeah, it's much less popular than the Power of Love. Power of Teeth.
It's the power of teeth.
Ooh, they are. Your jaw is. In your sleep, you can crack a molar by grinding your teeth. So they are pretty powerful.
You got to make sure you don't get into a battle with
Where are we
someone that has
going?
extra teeth
I
in
think-
their mouth, though, because then they have an advantage.
Yes.
I'm looking at you, Z.
We're
No.
going off the rails, man. I don't know.
Paula, what's your number 9?
I realize that the person who can stop this is in fact me, because I'm the next one. So I'll do that. My number 9 is Merchant and Marauders. So I picked this because I love games that feel very thematic. I've talked about it many times before. I love a game that I feel like I'm in or acting out a story or feel like I can be a character in. And I really find that the pirate theme of this game, well, sort of pirate, for me comes through really strongly when I play this. So in this game, you're the captain of a ship. You are completing different merchant assignments, or you're like following up on rumors to earn points, and you can like find and earn treasure, and there's combat. And at some point you can decide, do I want to stay on the straight and narrow path of being a merchant, or do I want to go pirate and then start to go after other things? And there are pros and cons of being a merchant versus being a pirate, and determining when is the right time to make the switch, if you're going to make the switch. And I just find that to be a really fun choice. And like I said, it's just the theme of the game comes through really strongly for me. And one of the pirate characters in this game looks like my friend Roman, which might also make me like the game more. So yeah, Merchants and Marauders is my number 9.
I would like this one more if it had less downtime.
Mm,
Hopefully,
that's fair.
when the inevitable second edition comes out, they address that.
I've owned this game for something like 7 or 8 years, and I've never played it.
Wow.
You should be cool. Say you
Crystal.
owned it for like 12 years, 2 years before it came out.
Yeah, this one I've never played this one. I would be fine with giving it a
You would
try.
hate
It just
it.
never happened. Would I hate it? It's what, too
You
long?
wouldn't like it. You would not like it. You would not like the downtime.
Okay. I'll wait for the second edition. Tom Vassell just announced, by the way, tweet this, everybody.
There will be a
that
second
there's
edition.
a second edition has been announced. It's
gonna
shorter.
fix the
There's less
downtime.
downtime.
Mhm. Thanks, Tom.
Scoop. Wow, wow,
You're supposed to be saving me here. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is a game that I am fairly certain is going to show up on someone's list, probably way later in the list, and that is Onirim, first edition. So this is a little bit of a cheat for me, only because I've never actually played the physical version of this card game. I have
Then
only
you can't do this. I challenge this pick.
so I'm just clarifying then. So you're saying the app version of Onirim is not valid?
There was just a list about apps.
But you know
Crystal?
what? It's your list.
It
It's fine. It's wrong, but it's fine.
So here's what's interesting is I think sometimes the app versions of games do not capture the experience well. But from what I can tell, the app version of Onirim, because it is a solo game, captures the experience really well. And for somebody like me who hates shuffling cards, I don't want to play the physical version of this game. I actively don't want to play it, but the app version is great because it does all that shuffling for you. I like I said, someone else is likely mentioning this later in the list, but it is a puzzly style card game where you are attempting to unlock doors via card play, and you have to be very strategic about when the demons come up. I don't know if they're called demons, but what you do in those moments. Yeah, what? Z knows this game? I'm shocked.
Well, Paula knows it too, clearly. She set nightmares right there when I was saying it. This is going to be on Paula's list, isn't it? Yeah.
It might be a 4-way crossover.
What?
Whoa, it could be. So I won't speak about it too much, but I have the app on my phone. I still play it regularly, and I really, really enjoy Onirim for the puzzly aspect of it. So that is why it is my number 9.
Crystal, do you hate like deck builders then? Because deck builders are all shuffling.
So I used to say I hate deck builders, and I have very slowly gotten off of that because there have been some really good, interesting thematic deck builders that have come out over the past few years. But I actively dislike Dominion, and I don't care who knows it. for instance.
We're gonna have some drama later.
Like everyone loves Dominion. I've never enjoyed
Dominion's
it.
here. Come on in.
Dominion is here. Come on in, Dominion.
I've
Wait,
never
hold on.
enjoyed it. You have
It's
to get
after
with
the
it.
break.
I need more with a deck builder than just building a
Paula's
deck.
gone. It was too much. She
That was
was like,
that
you
was
will not
so
insult
hectic.
You
Dominion
want to
that
just
way.
talk to Dominion about how you actually feel,
It's
Crystal?
2008 is not part of this conversation. All right.
That is a heavy box. Okay.
Where are we
Tom, what
at?
do you got?
Tom, it's you.
My number 9 is a small game that's out of print and probably won't come back in print, unfortunately, and that's Space Hulk Death Angel. This is a solo. I mean, it's not. It could be played solo. It's a cooperative card game that really is fun, even if you're not a fan of the 40K theme, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I enjoyed this one. You have a team of these Space Marines just going in and trying to accomplish a mission. But one thing this game tried to do was stop the alpha gamer by occasionally you draw a card and you have to make a decision without showing anyone else what the options are really. And I like that concept a lot. And so it feels like a bigger game than the small box would have you believe. So I like it. Space Hulk Death Angel.
They did reuse that whole read this card and make a choice before you share mechanism in some of the living card games that came afterwards. Like the Arkham LCG has that in it. But yeah, this is a neat game. It's a little mechanical now. You know what I mean? I replayed it maybe a year ago. It's a little mechanical with the whole columns and rows. It kind of like I see the grid. You know what I mean? But it's a neat game.
Number 8.
My number 8 is one of my favorite Friedman Freeze games, actually, and this is a deck building game, but it's a deck building game for only 2 players. It's a game called Familia, and it is in it. You are going to start with just a handful of characters with values of 1. There's like 4 or 5 families. They each have special abilities or whatever, and then you are playing cards just to buy new ones from the table. That's basically it. And you are the deck building sort of aspect of it is a little different than the usual deck building where you'll discard your entire hand, shuffle that up, draw again, kind of cycle through that. And this one, it's more of a balance you are playing between maintaining a healthy hand of cards that lets you react to what's available on the table, and at some point cycling all the discards you've placed out on the table back into your hand. Every time you acquire a new card, so I could play, say, 2 1s and take a 2 from the table. 2 1s, I leave one just in front of me. That's out. And the other one just goes right back in my hand, and I scoop up that 2 from the table. And that's basically it. You're following that curve. You want to hit that curve just right so that your hand continues to grow and you have the most points at the end of the game. The family's powers are neat. They let you, capture with a lower number or, mess with what's available, that kind of stuff. It's cool. I've enjoyed it. I think this one holds up really well because there's not a lot there to age, and Friedman Freeze games tend to be quirky anyway. So when they're good quirky, for me, obviously, that doesn't decay as much as a game that, doesn't feel 10 years old. This could come out now and I'd be like, yeah, okay, some quirky little card game, works. So yeah, it's my number 8, Familia.
I have no comments because I've never played this game. So I'll say my number 8 is our first official crossover. Mine is Onirim. So I think this is going to be on
4 ways, I tell you.
multiple lists.
Tom, why do you feel the need to mock tastes? Tom hates it. He hates it.
Oh, so it won't be on 4. Okay, well, it's at least on 2.
He hates everyone who likes it. Even
It's on 3. I would put money on it being on 3 at least.
At least I would think. Then higher up than here. So yeah, I've never played the solo version of this game. I've only played it with two.
What is going on? You've never played the real game.
Yes,
You've never
I
played the solo. What is happening?
I played it with two because I have a partner and we're always looking for games we can play together. And this is one that we actually got because of a review that Z did.
Trying to say, Z.
Shut up, Beth.
Z, we bought this game because of you and your review. Does that help?
That does help. I feel way better.
There you go.
Crystal still hasn't played it technically, though.
Well, I think this game, maybe it's because we played the 2-player version. Maybe I'm just bad at it. I find it incredibly challenging. I don't think I've ever won. It feels impossible to win, but I want to keep going back and trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. So
I hate to be the one to break this to you, but
it's that I'm bad at it.
Yeah, you're bad at it. Yeah.
Maybe we're playing it wrong, but I do like it a lot, and the art style of it's nice. And yeah, we're gonna talk about it again some more, so I'll shut up about it now.
Have you played the actual little original one or the new one in the square box?
The new one in the square box.
Chubby little square box. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, my number 8 is a dexterity game called Ghost Blitz. And no, I did not just put it on my list because it has the word blitz in the title. So any of you who want to come for me can hush it.
Have you only played the app for this or the real game?
That would be, if you can play a dexterity game with other people through an app, that would be impressive. But no, in Ghost Blitz, there are 5 wooden pieces on the table that are different shapes and colors. And then there is a deck of cards. Each card depicts one of 2 things. It'll have multiple objects on it, one of which is exactly as it appears on the table. So the color and the item will both appear on the card. Or it'll show a card where the attributes of a single item in the table are not displayed at all. So it'll show the colors and shapes of all of the other items, but not one of them. And the deck is randomly mixed up, so you have to switch your brain back and forth between 2 different types of comprehension in what you're looking at the cards, and then grab the item that the card is either depicting or not depicting. That mental shift, to me, is what makes this game the most interesting. It's not like a lot of other games of this style where it's the same every time and you're just trying to be the fastest at the same thing. Because it switches back and forth, I've found people with different skill levels in this style of game can sometimes keep up, because if you can make that mental shift more quickly, then you have a better chance. I will say, for accessibility reasons, this is not a colorblind friendly game at all. And so that is definitely a downside for it, but it's really fun. And I think it's a good one to play with people like at a convention. It's a quick little side game that you can kind of just throw on the table, only a few components. So that's why I picked Ghost Blitz for my number 8.
I feel like the game is geared for children. That's not a negative thing I'm saying, but adults can play it for sure. They also make Ghost Blitz 2, which is essentially the same game, just different pieces.
Yeah, I've played that one as well. And I don't remember I don't know if there are any mechanical differences between them.
There might be like one minor thing, but nothing to get too excited about.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to own both, would be my assumption. Like, you can pick up one or the other.
Yeah. I have the whole series. All right. They have Ghost Blitz Jr. too, which is for kids. It's just an easier version. My number 8 is one of the most important games to come out in the past 10 years, in my opinion. And this is the one I started.
It's only number 8 on your list?
Well, this is by my personal favorites, not by the importance. Okay. If I was going by importance, this would be number 1. And that's because this one started something that we're still dealing with today, repercussions from, and that's Alien Frontiers. The whole Kickstarter thing, it would have started anyway, right? But Alien Frontiers was the first one that caught all of our attention. And it was a good, solid first one. Mm-hmm. From the little touches of using the names of science fiction authors on the planets as the territories, to a really good dice placement. This was a dice placement game before dice placement games were cool. The only one at the time was Kingsburg, really. And really good production values that it even stands out today. Yeah, I just like it. It's a simple, easy game, and it has lasted. There's a gazillion expansions. I like Alien Frontiers.
Good stuff.
This was the first.
Number 7.
All right. I know you had something to say, Paula, but you're going to wait a second because my number 7
No, it doesn't matter.
is Alien Frontiers.
Oh.
So anyway, my number 7 is Alien Frontiers. What were you saying, Paula, about Alien Frontiers? I think it was.
Asking.
Go ahead.
This was the first board game Kickstarter.
It was one of the first, I think.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
That got people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
It did well. It was well finalized. It made some money. Came out, it showed up. So there was that sort of faith in the system, this was one of the ones that made it a little more viable for people to go, all right, well, we'll do it this way. Yeah.
Oh.
And everything Tom said, I agree with. I think it's a game that proved that you could go outside the established, typical sell a game to a company. They take it, they develop it, they put it through all the typical channels and publish it. You could go outside of that and come up with something that looked good and played well, Now, that's honestly, I think at this point, maybe the exception to the rule when Kickstarter, but it proved it could be done. So,
what's really weird is the first version of this game had 228 backers, $14,885.
Wow.
That's now we would look at it and go, not even worth my time.
You'd cancel that after the first day of your Kickstarter. You'd be like, it's not doing well enough. Cancel.
Oof. Yeah. Oh. Anyway, that's it for me. My number 7, Alien Frontiers.
My number 7, it's going to take the game. It's a pretty different game from that. So this is one that is on my list mostly because of nostalgia for it. So I put Timeline Inventions is number 7 on my list. So if you aren't familiar with Timeline, the way this works is you have cards. They have different, in this version of it, different inventions on them, and you are playing them out on the table, trying to put them in chronological order of when they were invented. So at first, this is easy because you might be like, oh, when was a pencil invented? Was it probably somewhere between the wheel and the television, But as you get more and more inventions laid out, the times that you have available in between, the gaps in time get tighter and tighter, can get trickier and trickier. I like this game because then you're like, well, what came first, the rubber eraser or the, and then it's like, oh gosh, I like it because
this sounds like 10 for 10.
Laugh at other people getting it wrong, and you can feel really smart when you get it right. And it's a game that I played a lot with my gaming group when we were first getting together with friends regularly for game night. And so I just have a lot of kind of nostalgic affection for this. And I like any game that makes me feel smart because I'll tell you, I lose games a lot. So sometimes games don't make me feel very smart. And I like that this one does.
This one was on my short list. Yeah. I like Timeline a lot, but the pop culture-y ones tend to be better for me. Anything that deals with history, these ones tend to make me feel very not intelligent.
You're like the
I'll be looking at something and I'm like, I feel like I should know when this was invented, and I'll have no idea.
I don't know.
I like Timeline.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Solid pick.
Thank you.
Moving from a solid pick to a less solid pick, my number 7 is
Jello.
Categories.
Nice. I was trying to come up with something too, but you nailed it. Nice. Categories
is my number 7, and I actually didn't know that this game existed until I think 2 or 3 years ago. Obviously, a lot of us played regular Categories as a kid. Categories is a game where you roll a die that has letters on it, and then you have to write down things that match that exact letter. In Categories, it switches it a little bit because you have a category such as road trip. And then on your sheet, you will write the letters ROADTRIP, and then you have to name things that fit within that category based on the first those letters. So an
road rage.
Yes, totally. That's a thing that happens on a road trip. And so I think the differing letters make it a little bit easier, because I think in regular categories, you sometimes have those moments when you're using the same letter over and over again, where you're just like, I can't think of another word that starts with R. And the specific reason why I love this game is because I grew up playing categories with my family. My mom and my sister really enjoyed it. And so when I heard that this game existed, I picked it up. And now when I get to go back to Missouri and visit my family, this is a game that I take with me, and they really enjoy it. And I still play it to this day. I think if you liked categories as a kid, and you still have some nostalgic love for it, categories is usually really cheap to pick up. And so it's one that I would recommend for family gaming for sure.
Autobahn.
I am not sold on this one. I'm not sold. Maybe it doesn't look different enough.
I mean, I don't own regular categories at this point. I don't think you would need to own both of those games for sure. But I played categories as a kid, and I like this version better. So I'm happy that I own categories now, because I enjoy it.
Overpass.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my number 7 was on Kickstarter just a month ago. But good news, if you like the original version of it, and if you want the original version in 2010, it looks like they made almost no changes to the updated Kickstarter. And that's Lords of Vegas. Lords of Vegas. No, did you see the Lords of Vegas Kickstarter? Unless you're buying that super briefcase edition that costs, I don't know, $500 or whatever.
Right.
It looks like they didn't change the art or anything.
I'm not sure they are printing new ones. I'm not kidding. I think they might have just found stock.
You're like, I know. Let's kickstart this.
I like Lords of Vegas. It does not have a great cover. It could use some graphic design. It has, I think, paper money in it, right? There's some problems component-wise, but it's a really fun, if somewhat mean game about building casinos in the weird city of Las Vegas, where normal people would not want to live, but it's fun to visit for a convention or so. That's
okay.
Shade.
Shots
anyhow.
fired. You know what though? Actually, I can't even be offended by that, because I'm definitely not normal.
Finally an admission.
We don't have any normal people on our top 10s, frankly, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And Las Vegas is lovely, and next time Dice Tower West happens here, everyone should 100% come.
I'm going next time.
Let's talk about Lords Vegas. It's a really solid game about you're placing dice to control different areas. There's a little bit of luck in the game, a little bit of gambling in the game, but it's mostly about speculating. It's kind of directly coming down the timeline of Acquire. You can see some of that in it, and I really enjoy it. So that's Lords of Vegas. You'll be able to get an old copy new soon, maybe.
Yep.
Number 6.
More is my number 6 pick here. I played Glenmore back when it came out, the original one, and he'd and hawed on getting a copy myself. And by the time I decided, maybe I will add a copy of this to my own collection of games, it had dried up and it was extremely expensive. Thankfully, if you want to experience this game, you can get Glenmore 2, which is a lot of the same. It contains sort of the same core with a new side board, if you want to call it that, as well as a bunch of little expansions, modules, what have you. But this was always an interesting game. I thought it had a really interesting use of that mechanic in which you can move ahead as far as you want to, but then can't go back and pick up something you passed. In this one, that thing is cyclical, though. So you can move as far as you want. Some of the tiles you left behind, you might be able to come back around as you circle back around, unless someone takes them who's behind you. Right. So that was always the central core mechanism of it. I thought that was engaging. That was interesting. And then there was a little kind of, tile placement and managing all that stuff. But the central thing was that idea, and I always enjoyed it. I thought it had a neat enough theme. The look was pretty good originally, and I'm glad that it got republished. That this got reworked, put out again, because I think it holds up. That central idea still is very enjoyable today. So, Glenmore is my number 6 pick.
This probably would have been on my list if I have ever played it, because I love Glenmore 2. I just never played the first one.
Yeah.
I think, I could be wrong, I think Glenmore 2 is on Tabletopia right now. And I've been thinking about wanting to try it because I haven't played them either, but I have some friends who say really good things about them, so I'm kind of curious. Now I'm more curious. So, okay, my number 6 is Seven Wonders. So in Seven Wonders, you are drafting cards to play into a tableau that is creating a civilization that you're building. You're trying to set up an engine that's getting you resources to spend on upgrading your cards and working toward completing a wonder of the ancient world. To me, it's a classic game that is so easy to pull out and play. It's great with a big group of people because it plays up to 7 without being a party game. It was my first introduction to card drafting, which if you aren't familiar with, you have cards, you're choosing the one you want, you keep it, you pass it to the left, you get whatever the next person. So you're like trying to decide, well, I want this card, but I know they're going for military points and I don't want them to have military. So should I draft the military card instead and hope that I get something out? So there's that, like, do you hate draft or do you draft for what you want? And I just think it's a game that I have a lot of nostalgia for and that I would happily play just about any time someone said, hey, maybe let's just play Seven Wonders. I'd be like, cool, let's do it. So yeah, Seven Wonders.
Nice.
This was my number 11, I think.
All right, so my number 6 is possibly going to show up on someone else's list, but I'm not sure. And that is Mr. Jack Pocket. I have to state up front, I'm horrible at this game. But what's funny is the reason I discovered this game, I discovered it in app form and then played the real version also, and I own the real version of it. So you can't hate on me too much, Z. In fact, the reason I discovered this game is because of you, Z. You taught me regular Mr. Jack. And then I loved that game so much that I went into the App Store looking for it, thinking there might be an app version, and saw this and downloaded it thinking it was regular Mr. Jack.
Oh.
And then I downloaded it and I was like, what is this? This is not Mr. Jack. It's Mr. Jack Pocket. So in this game, it is a semi-deduction, but also spatial reasoning puzzle. It is asymmetrical between 2 people. One person is trying to keep Jack the Ripper hidden, and the other person is trying to find out which of the people on the board is Jack the Ripper. And you are moving detectives around the outside of the square board, which is made up of tiles, and you're going back and forth, being able to do certain things, manipulate the tiles, and move the detectives. So you can rotate tiles or swap the locations of different tiles, and you're looking for creating lines with the detectives outside of the grid that people can see. So if your detective is in one row, they can see the tiles based on where the pathing is in those tiles. And if Jack can be seen, then you'll get that information at the end of the round, and you're trying to narrow down the suspects. I'm so bad at this game. Every time I play against the AI, I think I've lost almost every time. But it's interesting because whereas Mr. Jack is more deduction-based in my mind, this game is more about the spatial reasoning and figuring out how to manipulate the paths on the tiles to make it so you get the best amount of information at the end of a round.
It's a big puzzle, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it for different reasons than I actually like Mr. Jack. And so that is why Mr. Jack Pocket is my number 6.
All right.
Yeah. I don't really like Mr. Jack that much, but I actively loathe this game. I really hate Mr. Jack Pocket. Like,
that's weird. I don't know why you dislike it so much.
Because it's awful.
Tom hates fun.
It's so small. It's like so small and inoffensive.
It's like a puppy, and I'll kick it.
I'm just saying, it seems like not a big enough design to inspire hate. is all I'm saying.
Maybe that's
That'd be like
it's not a deep centered hate. It's kind of more of a quiet, burning.
like a seething.
Yeah, no, not seething, because it's forgettable. It's kind of like when you see it, you're like, and that's it. Okay,
Just go, Tom. Just go.
All right, my number 6 definitely has a much nicer, better version that's come out since then. But I did really like it when it first came out a lot, even with the lesser version, and that's Escape from Aliens in Outer Space. Because this is one of the few games that has literally made me like sweat when playing this game. Because it is scary. If you are a human, you are scared the whole game. Because
yeah, but
some
we
people are
were
aliens.
playing. You know, we were playing in a sauna, Tom. You always forget to mention that. You know, that's not really the game.
See, some things need to stay private.
I'm
I
sorry,
can air it out
baby.
right now
I will
on the
never be
internet.
ashamed of playing Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space in a sauna with you.
Do you think you could play any game in a sauna? I don't think I'd be able to concentrate.
Maybe Hive with the plastic pieces.
Yeah, something waterproof that's not going to be ruined by the condensation. You know?
I don't think you could think. You'd be sitting there like, oh, I'm so
Well, all
hot,
I'm
and then you get
saying
mad
is,
at the other
Tom,
person.
After we're done here, impromptu top 10 games to play in the sauna.
All I know is that you have derailed my pick here. Escape from the Alien in Outer Space.
Theme
It's
Park
a
is the
game-
only game you're allowed to play in a sauna.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Anyhow, back to Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Some people are aliens. They're chasing you. It's all secret movement. You're all shouting out answers, but sometimes people are lying as to where they are. It's really entertaining, and I think it's very evocative of the theme too. So that's Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, which was remade later on in a much, much nicer version from Osprey.
This game is the farthest to the bottom of my list that a game could be. And not because it is a
Wow.
bad game, but because to your point, Tom, in the previous number, I actively loathe this game. This type of stress that this game creates is the stuff that is made of nightmares for me in a way that I do not enjoy ever. I played this game twice in a single setting with some friends, and I will never touch it again.
It's very stressful. There's no question on that. I just happen to like it. But have you tried it in a sauna? Because that really might change your opinion.
No, I have not played it in a sauna.
And you at least have a reason for sweating if you're playing it in a sauna.
That's right. You
True.
can hide your nervousness.
Mhm.
You're right. You're like, why are you sweating?
It's like we're in a sauna.
Because it's in a sauna.
All social deduction games from now on are played.
Only
in a
can be
sauna.
played in a sauna.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Number 5.
All right, my number 5 is a crossover that I forget who said it. Paula said it, I think. Anyway, Hanabi is my number 5. Who had
did
said
say
it?
it.
Yeah,
I said it as number 10. So you like it twice as much as me.
I like it twice as much as you.
Yep.
So if you rate it a 7, I rate it a 14 out of 10.
Perfect.
So I really like it. Yeah, I think it's enjoyable. It's like you said, it's sort of a quirky game. The deduction aspect of it, the communication aspect of it, really makes it. If you play with the same group a lot, you also kind of develop your own cadence as to how you give information
like your
and
shorthand
why.
and the way you communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of like everything, you can get information. I've always liked this in any game, that giving someone like what you say is just as important as what you don't say. I really like that idea in games and everything. But like if I tell you these 2 cards are 1s, I'm also giving you information. I might be saying that because there's something else I'm not saying, which is actually more important. I don't know. I like those things, or like this is a 3. That means, the other one isn't. So therefore play that one first, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think Hanabi's is great. The version I have actually, the one I have here, the other ones at work, like I said, the older one, but is the tile one that's kind of like the Bakelite tiles.
Yeah.
Those are sweet because then you don't have to like get, claw hand from holding a bunch of cards for 45 minutes. Yeah, that one's awesome. So there you go. That's my number 5.
My number 5 is one of the first co-op games I ever played. It was one that was pretty formative in getting me into the hobby. I've talked a lot about like the first time I got in, I really was like, ooh, board games. Yeah, it was a night after I played Catan and then Betrayal at House on the Hill. And one of the next games I played, the next time I was playing games, was Forbidden Island. And I was just totally charmed by the idea of working together to achieve something. The little pieces of the things you're trying to collect are so cute and they're cool. It's like, I love Clue. I've talked about this before. And one of the things I loved about Clue as a kid was, you have the little plastic rope and the lead pipe. And it's kind of like that. In Forbidden Island, you have like the flame thing and you have the goblet or the chalice or whatever. And I just really liked the game. It's one of the first ones we added to our collection when we started actively buying more games. I like it a lot. I did, after a little while, we played it a bunch, and then it was kind of like, well, I kind of feel like we have this figured out. We kind of know what to do now when we go. It's not necessarily a newish puzzle. We've kind of know what to do, so we stopped playing it. And then last year at Dice Tower East, actually, I brought it with me and gifted it to my niece and nephew, who stopped by for the day. And I was like, here, I've brought you a game, and played it with them, which was really fun. And so now they have it. And so that was a cool thing to kind of pass to them at an age where I felt like they could start to really appreciate it. So Forbidden Island, my number 5.
Yeah, that game definitely has that kind of vibe, doesn't it? Where you can pass it along to someone. It's like, here's a toy/game. Enjoy it. When you're done with it, pass it on. Yeah, I like that. I like it.
And I know Tom in the past has mentioned the games that come in tins being kind of annoying because they don't really fit.
Yeah, now I don't have to fit it on my shelf.
Yeah, right. But I think it's got some charm to it because it comes in a tin. So my number 5.
I was with you until you said that there, Crystal.
Oh yeah?
No, I think the game is fine. I don't think being in a tin adds to its charm.
Well, no, for passing it off to somebody.
That shirt's ugly, but it adds to its charm. You can't. A 10 is objectively bad. No charm.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas, Tom. Mr. Jack Pocket in a tin.
In a sauna.
In a sauna.
But it did mean I was able to pack that game in a suitcase. I wasn't worried about the corners getting dinged. I wasn't worried about the box getting scratched. I could throw it across the room. It'll survive.
No, it's not safe in a tin. A tin is actually less sturdy than a box.
Okay, dense. Fine. That's fine. I can see
that. All right. My number 5, it was Paula's number 6, and that is Seven Wonders. It is a game that a lot of people have played and a lot of people talk about. It is one that at this point in my gaming career, I never suggest, but always enjoy when it comes out to the table. And it's funny because I often, sometimes when someone suggests it, because I kind of got burned out on it over the years, my initial thought when somebody suggested is, I don't know if I want to play that. But then every time I sit down and play it, it's enjoyable. So I think it does what it does really well. It scales really well. There are not a lot of games with that much depth and interesting strategy that you could play with 7 people, and it still takes a reasonably short amount of time. And it's not horrible to teach. There are, it's definitely one of those games where if you've played it a lot, you are likely to win over new players, but it's not super difficult to teach to people. So Paula already talked about it a little bit. I really enjoy it. That is why Seven Wonders is my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is a game that was, I think, for a while in my top few games. I liked it that much, and I've calmed down on it a bit since then. And that's BattleCon War of Indines. Really like this fighting game, and kind of tries to do a 2-player fighting Street Fighter Capcom type game. Every character is very different, and when I say every character, I mean the 6,000 different characters he shoved in that box. You put 2 cards together and you fight the other person. It's very thinky. It's very well done. I enjoy it a lot. It's hard to find people to play against because it does involve a bit of teaching, and or someone who's good at the game will whoop on someone who's not. But I still think it's really well put together, and I enjoy it. don't think this is a niche following almost. Very, very popular. The Millennium games. Level 99 games.
Right.
People like that sort of thing, but it's not for everyone.
Right. Well, it's like fighting games, actually, like fighting video games. They kind of have their followers, and.
Yeah, good point.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4 is the original version of one of my favorite games right now, and that is 51st State, the original printing of 51st State, which had its slate of issues, but I remember when it came out and I played it, I rated it a 10 out of the gate. I came off of Race for the Galaxy, which I liked very much. I was definitely around this time into, I guess I called them complex card games, like card games that were not just color and number card games.
Right.
Like this is a blue 7, whatever. But they had effects and stuff, and cards could be multiple things and all that jazz. So Race for the Galaxy I thought was great. And then 51st State came out, and it felt like another Race for the Galaxy to me. Iconography was, I think it was better, but iconography was definitely a beast.
By popcorn, I'd throw it.
Would you like us to wait for you to make popcorn?
Go get some popcorn.
I would love to see you throw popcorn.
Strawberry yogurt popcorn. I could use that, but I wouldn't throw it because it's that delicious.
You have that? On my way over there immediately after this. 51st State is good stuff, but it's a complex card game. It's kind of hard to teach. It had its issues that, in my opinion, have been kind of worked out of the system in the new printing master set, as it's called. It's not really even that close of a game anymore. They're very different by now.
Yes.
But I would play this for nostalgia's sake. I got rid of it. But I would play it to kind of just be like, I'm playing the original. I don't recommend anybody hunt it down. Just get the new one, okay? But putting myself in the time frame of 2010, this had to be this high on the list for me. So there you go, 51st State, my number 4.
My number 4 is half of a crossover, Crystal, with yours because it has the word pocket in the title.
We never had a half crossover before.
It's amazing.
You're here seeing it here first. It's a first for the Dice Tower.
That's why you got to tune in to these things. You never know what's going to happen. Got to watch it live. My number 4 is Hive Pocket. So it's a great 2-player game. I'm terrible at it. In this game, there's something almost like chess-like, I feel like, in your interaction with the game. So you have these hexagon pieces that have different bugs on them, and you're laying them out on the table, and then you're moving them, and each kind of bug moves in a different way, and you're trying to surround your opponent's queen bee piece with all of your pieces. And I like the pocket version because it comes in a bag, has nice big pieces. You can travel with it pretty easily. They're very tactile. It's nice to I just actually am right now. I just want to I'm imagining holding them, and it's satisfying even to imagine. Anyway, I'm bad at the game. I always think I'm about to outsmart my opponent, and then turns out that 3 turns ago I made a fatal error that I didn't realize until now, and now I can't go back and fix it. But it's kind of like Onirim in that I'm always losing it. But I always want to keep trying again because maybe next time I'll finally be good at it. So, Hive Pocket.
All right, my number 4 is. Oh wait, so did somebody want to say something?
No.
Okay.
Hive's good. I like Hive.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a game that I am fairly certain will not show up on anyone's list.
Challenge accepted. Get ready, Roy.
If this is on your top 3, Z, I will be shocked. And that is Mord Im Arosa. This is one of the sillier games in my collection, and it is one that I adore because it is very different than a lot of other games. In Mord Im Arosa, 2 people have been murdered in a 7-story hotel. And that hotel is a physical component made up of boxes that stack on top of one another. And the players must figure out where the murders took place and who amongst you is the murderer. And the way you do that is by dropping cubes into the top of the hotel and seeing or listening to try and determine in which floor of the hotel they landed. Yes. No, it is, you legitimately, so you cannot play this at a convention. You cannot play this in a noisy store. That's unfortunately, because you can't play it at a convention, it doesn't get played as much for me. But you have to be in a quiet room. But the moment where everyone is leaning in toward the middle of the table and trying to suss out what floor of the hotel the cubes are landing on as you drop them in. It's neat because there's a board, and once you've located the murder victims, then you're dropping your own cubes into the tower and everyone else is doing the same, and you're trying to guess on which floors specific people have ended up. So if you find your own cubes, you get to pull them out of the building and reduce the amount of suspicion on yourself. But if you can successfully find other people's cubes, then they get more suspicion put onto them. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most suspicion is the murderer and loses. And whoever has the least is the winner. It is ridiculous. And
I really want to play this with you now.
Good.
I think I'd be bad at it.
This is a good, super quirky game. This is a great choice.
It's good. I like it, but it's weird.
Oh, it's very weird.
Yeah.
But that's
this would have been, if I was going to 20 instead of 10, this would be in there.
Okay. Yeah, no, I enjoy how different it is. There is no other game in my collection that does similar things to this one. And so for that reason alone, it's probably staying in my collection for a long time. And honestly, it just creates some very amusing moments where, you'll hear the click when it just goes down to that first level and you're like, oh, I know it's on the top floor. But then you hear click, 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 click. And you're like, wait, I don't know where that cube ended up. So
I've had some of the biggest laughs I think I've ever had with a game. I remember distinctly was this with my mom. She used to have at her place a glass table. And we'd play on the glass table. And when it would go all the way through, it was like ringing a bell. It was like, cling, 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 cling. I'm like, you're on the bottom floor. So you could really tell it had landed on the bottom.
Yeah, the surface on which you put the hotel really does make a difference. So for that reason, sometimes we'll use a play mat or something like that to make it a little bit harder.
I play on a pillow.
Yeah.
So that is why Mord Im Arosa was my pick for number 4.
Nice.
My number 4 is also a cooperative game, as was mentioned earlier, but this one is a big, giant cooperative game, and that's Defenders of the Realm. Defenders of the Realm, of course, there are many versions of this. In fact, the newest version, Defenders of Metro City, coming from Arcane Wonders, is in the Dice Tower Essential line, and it stems back from me really enjoying this first one. I like Defenders of the Realm. I like the idea of defending against these hordes of fantasy warriors coming to attack your town. The graphic design is atrocious. The art is almost feels like it's pasted on in the game. It feels like it was made for something else, and it probably was, actually.
Sure.
And the theme is super generic, but it still works really well. It is very similar to Pandemic in some ways, but it has excitement in it in others, and I like it a lot. I actually like it better than Pandemic. And that's Defenders of the Realm. I know. I don't care, Z. I don't care.
I'm telling you, Mr. Jack Pocket in a tin with a ding in one corner so it doesn't quite close. And you're just gonna give you fight with it.
Number 3.
All right, my number 3 game is let me see. This is the most recently played out of all the games on this list for me, because I literally played it last week during the virtual gaming con. I hosted this game just to do it because it's old, and I was like, I like this game a lot. That is K2. Ooh. K2 is a mountain climbing game in which you are trying to summit and come back down while remaining safe and accumulate, of course, the most points. The higher up the mountain you go, the more points you're going to get. That's the general premise. I've always in my mind kind of associated this game with Pandemic, actually, because I learned them around the same time within, I think, a 2-year window. And they both did something I found very fascinating. That was that they managed to be just abstracted enough where turns are really quick, but the games feel thematic. They managed to bring me into the fold. I feel like I'm doing the things they're telling me I'm doing, and yet I can also clearly see the abstraction. Pandemic does that. I feel tense. I feel like I better stop what's going on in the world or else. And K2 does the same thing. Can I summit this turn and come back down and avoid that storm that's looming? Can I set up a tent? Can I pitch this tent and survive one more day before I make the big push? I see a weather forecast. The next 2 days are clear at the summit. So should I go for it now? Do I hang back and wait? Do I play it safe? Do I risk it? All these things. And yet the game is literally pick 3 cards, reveal them, and move. I mean, like that's basically it. But it's so captivating to me. It's so engaging, and it has a theme that is very different. Not a lot of games have this theme. So yeah, I love K2. I don't know. Have you guys played this? I'm guessing you have, Tom. I'm not sure. I'm
trying to remember now. I know I put the sequels. Everest,
Mount
right?
Everest, yeah, which is not
They're
as
almost
good.
the same game, right?
Not really. No, Mount Everest has a lot more going on. I find it loses its clarity because of the complications.
I played
like
both. You're right. I gave Mount Everest a 6, and I gave K2 a 6.5. So I liked K2 slightly better. I don't think I was enamored with it as you, but I thought it was fine.
I haven't played it.
No?
I haven't either, but listening to you talk about it right now sounds like a game I might like. I like what you're saying about how like it's abstract, but you feel the theme in it, you know, and that, like I was saying earlier, I really like that. So, and I've heard of the game. I've just never had a chance to play it. So now I officially want to play it.
And it plays well with 2 also, Paula. I think you'd like it.
Oh, that's good.
Which platform did you play it on for Virtual Gaming Con, Z?
Gosh, Tabletopia, I think.
Okay.
Ooh, and it plays well at 2 on Tabletopia. I'm adding it to a list of games that I'm playing on Tabletopia.
I assume. I did not play 2 on Tabletopia, but the game physically plays fine at 2. So I assume it does.
I'll make a note of that. Cool, thanks. Great. My number 3 is Dominion Prosperity. So this is another one that is early in my collection. I've got nostalgia for it. I mean, Dominion is, you know, my everyone, I guess, but kind of in a way, is introduction to deck building game. It's, I think, one of the first like expansions I ever got in my collection for anything. We were like, we like this game. We should get one of these expansions. I only have 2 of the Dominion expansions, Prosperity and Intrigue, and I just like what it adds to the game. It adds, you know, some treasure cards that have some special abilities, some other cards that kind of interact with those treasure cards. If you're not familiar with Dominion,
stop. No, everyone's familiar.
If everyone knows, they may not. There could be someone watching who doesn't know. Not watching. You're buying cards, you put it in your hand, you're mixing in you know what I'm talking about. Where you don't need to hear me probably look it up, but the theme.
If you've never heard of Dominion, no, they've heard of it. I think.
Tell this box you've never heard of it. It's so heavy.
I don't know you, Dominion.
It's not that heavy. You've only got 2 expansions.
It's got like an insert that's, I think, like a wooden insert that's making it to organize the cards. That's making it heavier. But
what?
Yeah, Dominion Prosperity. I like it.
All right, you're a guest, so we'll allow an expansion. Even though the list clearly says top 10 games, not top 10 games expansions. But I think that's the greatest expansion for Dominion there is, so I will accept it.
Closer than putting like a video game on the list, but it's not that close.
And it's all the way up on number 3 for me.
All right, I guess I'll just do whatever I want.
Cancel me again. Just cancel me again. For this and Hanabi.
Well, if people are getting canceled for Hanabi, then prepare to cancel me too, because that's my number 3.
Three-way crossover, Tom, in your face.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't know if it's not on my list.
I mean, who knows? Z and Paula both already spoke about Hanabi. It is one that has been in my collection for a really long time. As Z said, the version with the tiles is really neat because I think it removes some of the problems that certain players have with the card version of the game. Like, I've played Hanabi with people who are Magic the Gathering players, and they tend to want to move the cards in their hand around. And when they accidentally do that, and all of the clues that you've given them are now worthless, that's kind of frustrating. Whereas if they just have tiles sitting on the table in front of them, it's better. But obviously the card version is the one that came out in 2010, and that is the one I own, the card-based version. It's small, it's really easy to carry around or put in a quiver or whatever you want to do to bring it around. I had some friends, we were waiting for a release at a store that was happening at midnight, and we went a few hours in advance to get in line because we're ridiculous like that. And Hanabi was one of the games that we brought and played while we were waiting. So
assuming this is a video game.
It was the
Harry Potter Book 7.
No, it was the Super Nintendo Mini, like the little Super Nintendo.
Oh, yes.
thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We had nothing better to do that weekend. I don't do that often.
No kidding.
That's okay. Crystal, if you wanted to stand in line for the cool Super Nintendo thing, I think that's fine. I'm not judging you.
No.
Live your truth, Crystal.
I wasn't judging. I was just asking clarifying questions. Why were you stupidly standing in a line?
By the way, let us take a moment to specify to the humans watching, we all know each other and we're kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Also, when Crystal says quiver, that's an actual thing that's made to carry board games. She doesn't carry a bow around. That also happens to have her board games in it.
Yeah,
that would be cool though if you did.
That would be cool.
If you don't know what a quiver is and you travel with board games ever, I highly suggest looking it up. I own 2 of them. Hanabi. That's great. So yeah, as far as cooperative games go, I still really enjoy Hanabi. It's still in my collection. I love it. That is why it is my number 3.
Nice.
All right, most of Z's list is trash, but I do agree with him on this one. Crossover with Z, my number 3, Ferlenzi. It ends with a Z, which is your name.
Firenze.
No, Z.
Firenze.
Someone in the chat earlier said, it's easy to pronounce. It's Friends. Z.
It's closed. I actually went and listened to how to pronounce it while we did this, so I wouldn't mess it up. Anyway, so Z's right, though. This game has that whole take a card that's at the front of the line or take one farther down the line, but you got to pay buildings on top of it. I love that mechanism. Yeah. I love how simple the game is, has a little bit of interaction, 3-dimensional towers. This one was just reprinted actually a few years ago. I don't think it's that hard to find or expensive. Right. It's certainly worth getting. It looks boring, the cover especially, but it's a fun game. So my number 3, Ferlenzi.
I figured this would be in your list.
Number 2.
My number 2 is a crossover as well. Though I've never played the physical game.
No.
No, I'm kidding. This is Onirim or Onirim. I think it's technically how it's supposed to be pronounced. I got it into my head that I like before I ever heard anyone else say it. I pronounced it Onirim, so I'm stuck with it. Just deal with that.
Me too, I guess.
So Onirim, I really enjoy, and I had the original one with the little sort of flat, split a deck into 2 and put it in this little box. That's the original one I used to own. And eventually, when they re-released it, it had way more content in the box. So I immediately upgraded to the newer one. There's so much in there. It's a tiny little game. It's a very simple little solitaire or 2-player co-op game in which you're just lining up cards, trying to, like you said, open these doors, achieve the thing before your deck runs out. But it also kind of blows my mind that it's tense. It's like really tense. Mm-hmm. Just playing, draw a card, play a card. I mean, that's it. And there's tension woven into it somehow, like a magician put a spell on this thing for me. And also the expansions, the little modules or whatever, they're so clever and distinct from one another, and they really add something to it where the longevity of the game is tremendous. I found the game to be something I keep coming back to, and to this day rarely play once only in a sitting. I'll play it and then immediately pick one of the 9 expansions or whatever and shuffle that in and play again just to have another go. I love it. I think it's just one of my absolute favorite games. Never mind 2010. So there you go.
That tension you're talking about, like, especially that moment when you've put out 2 different cards of a single color and you have no more of that color in your hand and you have to make a decision about to discard, like that I think is one of the most, because you're just like, you know you're going to lose something regardless. And then, of course, you draw a nightmare and you have to theoretically discard the whole hand anyway. That tension is something that makes it really unique.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. That's my number 2.
Ooh. My number 2 is Catacombs. So this is a dexterity game that I like a lot. You have all these wooden pieces that you're flicking. You're like playing little heroes, and you're flicking the pieces at other pieces that are monsters, and you kill them, you damage them by flicking at them. This is technically on my list because I own a newer version of the game called Catacombs and Castles, which I do prefer. I like the updated art on it a lot. It's more whimsical than the old version, but this is one I was referring to earlier.
Catacombs and Castles has the same art, but it's a very different game than Catacombs.
Well, then this shouldn't be on my list then, because I love Catacombs and Castles and Catacombs.
If you like one, you would like the other. If you like the flicking and the special powers.
That's what I like about it. Yes. And so you're flicking your pieces, you're moving through different catacombs cooperatively to defeat different monsters that you're encountering. You've got like a boss. And I just like it. I like flicking the pieces and watching them go not where I want them to go. So yeah, Catacombs, my number 2.
This is one that I think would have been on my list had I played it. It's been one of those games that for years I'm like, I really should play that because I'm pretty sure I would dig it, and I've just never played it.
Yeah, I think it's really fun. We should play it. Come over sometime, Crystal.
Yes.
We'll play.
No, when it is safe to do so, I'm coming to LA. I'm barging in on you and the brothers Murph and everybody. So
perfect.
Dinner. Hello, it's Crystal. I'm here to play games.
I've got games in 10s. Let's go visit a sauna.
Pulls them out of her quiver.
Oh my goodness.
My number 2 is a game that Paula mentioned as her number 5, and that is Forbidden Island. Kind of one of those classic cooperative games that I think a lot of us played for a while. I will admit, again, this is one that I don't play as often anymore, and I generally prefer Forbidden Desert to Forbidden Island at this point. But Forbidden Island still has a lot of charm. It is still really fun, and I think this is another one that's, because of its simplicity when compared to Forbidden Desert, I think it's better for if you're playing with kids or with less experienced gamers, but it still holds some fun for hobby gamers as well. Obviously, we've already talked about it a little bit, but yeah, Forbidden Island is great. It's not my favorite cooperative game, but it's one that I've always really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
pretty.
A fair point,
it's so
too.
Pretty.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying, Paula? Fair point? Go ahead.
There's a fair point, that idea of like, if you like Forbidden Island, but you've kind of been like, okay, I've solved it. move on to Forbidden Desert because it does add more.
Or Pandemic, yeah.
Or Pandemic.
I mean, it's not like they're by
I
the
think
same designer or anything.
Forbidden Island is absolutely one of those games that is almost the perfect gift to a non-gaming friend.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's charming. It's attractive.
Mm-hmm.
It's welcoming. There's like a little sliver of that tension of like, ooh, are we going to sink or are we going to solve it? But it's just a fantastic, and it's really inexpensive too. Doesn't Forbidden Island list for like $15 or something nuts like that? It used to.
Yeah, I think it's 15 or 20. Like it's
like unbelievably cheap. So
and it comes in a charming tin.
A charming tin.
Perfect. Love it. Tom,
So
what do you got?
All right, my number 2.
What game in a tin is your number 2 pick?
So we have a 4-way crossover with Onirim.
What? No.
I'm not a sheep. This ain't on my list. I didn't hate it as much as I wanted to. I wanted to hate it because Z likes it so much.
You also played so wrong. I mean, like, so wrong.
I fixed it.
Let's agree to disagree.
No. I don't want to
disagree.
I agree.
I disagree.
Anyhow.
Duck season.
No. My number 2 is sort of, I guess we're back to half crossovers with Paula, because it actually is the real Catacombs.
I put
that I
the
have
real
played.
Catacombs on my list. I just like Catacombs and Castles better, and that love for Catacombs and Castles spilled over into Catacombs. But the old version of this has
for me, Catacombs is really close to a 9 for me, and Catacombs Castles is a 7. Catacombs Castles is super light. Catacombs like, we're playing a dungeon crawl game with flicking, and it's really well done. It would not be maybe as high on my list if they had never reprinted it, because the original 2010 one was pretty ugly. It really was. But they really made it look nice now, and I don't know what it is. I like dexterity games anyway, and I like dungeon crawls, and this is a nice mix. Nowadays, dungeon crawls seem to come with a 50-page rule book and extremely difficult combat. This is like, nice. I understand how this one works. So, Catacombs, my number 2.
Nice.
And finally, number 1.
Guys, my number 1 is a big-time crossover, 7 Wonders.
There's some similar game. We should all game together. And by all of us, I mean Crystal, Z, and me. Sorry, Tom.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I can think for myself.
Tom can watch from the sauna.
Actually, what it is you all tend to like light games more so, I think. And that's shown on the list here.
Don't shame us, okay?
I'm not shaming or even looking down or even criticizing.
I like heavier games, just none of them are on from this year.
Well, and for the record, there are some heavy games from this year that I do think that I would really enjoy. Pret-a-Porter is an example of that. I've never played it, and I really, truly think I would enjoy it. But obviously, since I haven't played it, it can't be on my list.
Well, that doesn't stop some people, but yes.
What?
Ooh!
I'll do what I want.
Great.
See, now you're learning. That's how we do things around here. We do what we want.
I love it. All right, well, that's it. I'm not going to add anything else. 7 Wonders is great. So it's my number 1 pick. I love it.
Right. My number 1 is a crossover with Tom. It was significantly earlier on his list, but it's my, for sure, number 1 this year, and it's Space Hulk Death Angel, the card game.
What?
Yeah, I really like this game a lot. And Z, I disagree with you. You said, it feels kind of mechanical. You have this hallway in the quarters. But that's what's great about it, is it takes the game, Space Hulk, the board game, and it takes that idea of being in this, you're in a little hallway trying to get into the ship as Space Marines. It's tight. There's not room to move around. And so it should feel mechanical and claustrophobic because you are in the hallway and the gene stealers are coming at you from the sides and through the vents or through a door, and you've got to figure out, like, do I move this turn and swap into this place so that I can shoot at that? But here's the thing. You have 3 cards in your hand that are your actions. And you choose the one you're going to do. So, I'm going to move this turn. But next turn, you don't have that action available to you. So you have to be, again, thinking ahead, like, am I going to want to move next turn? Or am I going to want to attack this turn? If I attack now, I won't be able to attack next turn. So, and then you have to think about it. And it's tough and it's tight. And you can die in the game. And I think it scales well from 1 to, I think it plays up to 6. I think I've played it at most with 4. But it scaled really well from 1 to 4. And I just like it a lot. So...
All right.
Death Angel.
I am surprised a lot at this, but happily surprised.
I thought you would.
I would like to go back in time 5 minutes
for trash.
and take back all the shade I have been throwing. Paula clearly has the best tastes here.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I don't care that much about the 40K universe, but I like this game, but I really like Space Hulk as well. So, yeah.
I wonder if this one could be reprinted maybe with a different theme.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're running like an outlet store and the jean stealers are literally trying to steal pairs of jeans. And
outlet, like outlet mall, like an Old Navy and an outlet mall, not like a store that sells electrical outlets.
No, they sell all sorts of things, but you're in it's like a big box store and you're in the clothing department. That way, if you set it in a big box store, you could do an expand, like a sequel in a different department. Like now you're in the electronic department, walking down all the video games, You could go places with it. I want to work on that, and then call up FFG.
Yeah, maybe take another pass or two at the theme, at the reskinning of the game. But yeah, I mean, surely something's there. Something.
Yeah, there's something there.
Something.
Okay, well, my number 1 is not a crossover.
We're losing Tom by
this game.
Wait, how are you losing me? I was just thinking, but that conversation went off the rails. Go ahead, Crystal.
That's what happens when I'm here, apparently.
Ditto. My number 1 has not been mentioned by anyone yet, and it is, in my opinion, not the best game on my list, but it is my favorite game from 2010, and that is an out-of-print card game for 2 players called Dragonheart. So, in Dragonheart, one player takes the role of a disciple of the Great Dragon and tries to break the spell on it, while the other player takes the role of the evil wizard's minion and tries to prevent the freeing of the Great Dragon. That's the thematic text.
Is this like the movie?
Is this the Rudiger Dorn game, Dragonheart?
I believe, yes, it is Rudiger Dorn who designed it.
Wow, this got very little buzz. I mean, I haven't played it, so maybe it's right, but wow.
I played it. I rated it a 4 out of 10. So I disagree with everything you say, Chris.
I love Dragonheart. There's a game board that has a number of different areas on it, and players will draw cards and then play sets of cards to the board. And when you play specific types of cards, you will then be able to take other cards back off of the board to score points. And there's a lot of interesting strategy in when you choose to play cards to the different areas of the board and when you take cards from the board. There's the dragon token that you can take, which will increase the size of your hand, which gives you a distinct advantage. Even though it is out of print, I play it frequently because it is on Board Game Arena. So anyone can play this game for free anytime they want. I am always happy to play this one. It's one that I didn't discover until just, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. Nicole Hoy of the Great Way Games podcast taught it to me online, and I immediately fell in love with it. I think it is wonderful. I don't care if other people rate it a 4. I like it a lot, and I think more people should give it a try because, I do think it is underrated for what it is, and I think more people would enjoy it if they gave it a chance. So head over to Board Game Arena and try it out.
This game feels, thinking about it now, it's been ages since I thought of it, but thinking about it now, it kind of feels like a fiddlier version of a Bluxen, or whatever. Like what's the other name for that game? The one with the fox on the cover.
What does it say?
Fox in the forest.
Bluxen is Linko. Linko was the other name. It kind of feels like Linkle. You play sets, and sometimes you pick them back up, and then you play it again, you pick it back, It's just, no, Crystal. No, that's crazy talk. Number 1. What's wrong with you?
This list is my favorite games from 2010, and this one is my favorite because it is the one that I play the most to this day.
Crystal, live your truth. You live your truth.
That's okay. Z hates my number 1 too, but he's wrong. My number 1, also not mentioned by anyone thus far, is the fantastic card game Innovation.
Oh, you're fine, Crystal. Dragonheart is a solid pick.
Innovation. A game that's about civilization, sort of, kind of, but it's more about combinations of cards. I've always been a little confused that Z likes these complex card games, as he calls them incorrectly, but this being in that group, the only thing I can think of is that there's that take that element to it, or that it also is extremely chaotic.
Sure. I mean, I don't care about it. Yeah, both of those things I thought were not good. I played this game one time. It's a game that has stages, I guess, epochs, ages, whatever. What?
Played it
9?
Me.
I played it once, and I literally stopped at a combo that happened in age 4. Never needed to upgrade my cards again. Just kept pressing the same button, and I'm fairly certain I won. And I thought, this is so stupid. I just sat here for more than half of the game, basically being like, this is still better than anything I've seen after. Press the button, get some points. Press the button, get some points. It was dumb. I hate it.
That's not quite how. No. That's just. I don't know what happened. That's not the point. The point is, it's an excellent game. I really like it. It's really enhanced by at least one of the expansions. I have not played all of them, and it's a great 2-player game. A little too chaotic, I think, with 4. 3's okay, but 2, it's fantastic. So. All right, everyone who's watching, what are some games that we missed that you think we should have talked about, even though we've talked now for an hour and 36 minutes?
Got a lot to say. I got a lot of opinions.
We didn't have any 4-way crossovers. Nobody picked.
Iron hater.
Well, no one here picked Trois.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played it.
I haven't either. I'm interested in trying it, but.
And honestly, I haven't played it because I'm just afraid to say the name of it on a stream.
That is Troy's.
Troy,
That's how I would say it. That's fine.
Let's see. Oh, did Fresco come out in 2010? It did indeed. I like Fresco, but not as much as many other people do, I guess.
I remember that one. I think that might have been the headache game. Was that the headache game? Fresco?
The headache game.
I gotta look and see. I played one of these painting games that I remember gave me a distinct headache. No, this isn't it. Never played this.
Also, Rivals of Catan came out. That's the 2-player Catan. That's pretty good. Just didn't make my list. Ambi says we missed 1817 and 1880 China.
Oh no! I totally forgot.
I knew I was
80 China would have been my number 11, I think. No, maybe Mr. Jack Pocket. Then 1880 China. Yeah.
Earth Reborn is one some people are asking about. I like Earth Reborn a lot when it came out. It has really dropped because so many Kickstarters have done the same thing and better, and that's just unfortunately that's how it works.
Yeah.
Did Ascension come out in 2010?
Maybe one of the expansions. I don't know.
No, the first one came out in 2010.
Oh, you missed it, Tom. You messed up.
No, I don't know if it'd make my list. I don't know. I only played on the iPad, although apparently from today we learned that does not matter.
No, it's fine. Expansions, fine. Games you've technically not played, who cares? Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
All right. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. Crystal, where can people find more about you or from you online?
Well, this Friday you can come to the game show here on the Dice Tower that Eric and I are going to be hosting Friday evening, which starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find me every 2 weeks here on the Dice Tower on Dice Tower Tonight on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Other than that, you can find me on my podcast, Board Game Blitz, or talking a lot on Twitter at Crystal Pisano about board games, Star Trek, and other random things.
I love it.
What about you, Paula?
Oh, Crystal's has hers down a lot better
I know,
than
right?
mine. I'm gonna it's gonna go off the rails again. It already has. So you can watch. I make board game sketch comedy, a series called Things Get Dicey, which you can find here on YouTube by either typing in Things Get Dicey or my channel name is under my name, Paula Deming. So you can find that there. I also stream board games every Wednesday. In fact, in like 2 hours from now, I will be streaming board games on the Gen Con TV Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GenConTV with Matthew Jude. We play board games together through Tabletopia, Tabletop Simulator. That's pretty fun. I'm on the board game podcast called This Game is Broken, which is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network, and that is a comedy panel show quiz thing about board games. That's pretty fun. And unrelated to board games, I make a podcast called Death by Monsters, also with Matthew Jude and Nick Murphy, and we talk about monsters, mysteries, and the unknown. It is a comedy paranormal podcast that is not meant for children because we do curse in it.
I do know that now.
That's it.
So
the content otherwise I think is mostly fine, but we do drop the occasional F-bomb, so just be forewarned.
All right, folks, we're going to be back
Sorry,
in 50 minutes with our live playthrough of Gloomhaven, the new one, Jaws of the Lion, and more stuff all day long, more top 10s. We still got more coming. I've seen some of the people who are doing these top 10s, like Sam Healy's in the comments right now. He'll be back on Saturday. Happy Canada Day to all our northern brethren and sisterin. And that's pretty much it. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Crystal Pisano.
I'm Paula Deming.
And I'm Z Garcia. Thank you, everybody.
Have fun gaming.
Bye.
Bye.